Greetings, my name is Alan and this is a 5-minute guide to longsword, which might not be exactly 5 minutes long, but you get the idea. In this video I will provide you with some necessary knowledge, such as what a longsword is, where to get one, how to start training one, the most common ways of using a longsword according to historical sources, as well as how to wield a sword and not look like an idiot, as well as some do's and don'ts of owning a longsword, and also how not to be an obnoxious twat while owning a longsword, or any sword for that matter. So, without further ado, let's do it. So, here is a longsword. It is a type of slender, high medieval through Renaissance sword designed for striking and thrusting mainly. It can also deal damage by slicing and pummeling, bludgeoning with the pommel or the crossguard. An average longsword would weigh around 1.5 kg, which is slightly above 3 pounds, and be 115 centimeters long, which translates directly into 45 inches. This exact specimen is a little bit longer at 127 centimeters, which is often the case with modern sparring replicas. Where to get one? Well, you can order a functional sword from a variety of vendors and makers online. Just consult the list below. Most commercially available swords nowadays are CNC cut and then machine milled into shape, which does not lower their performance, it just gives them a certain mass-made feeling. Such mass-made functional longswords have prices starting at $400. However, if you're looking for something heavily customized and tailored to your exact needs, do consider commissioning a sword from someone who makes them by hand. A short list of such swordsmiths can be found below. Or you could order a sword from me, as I make swords for a living. It is usual for a handmade sword to cost over $800. The art of using a longsword has been lost and forgotten for centuries, until modern scholars took an effort to study and recreate the ancient techniques. They based their study on preserved historical manuals, as well as archaeological finds such as original sword specimen and the analysis of battlefield wounds. The discipline of studying and recreating these techniques is known as HEMA, or Historical European Martial Arts. Of course, it is a vast area of research, as there are many ways to handle a longsword, so I'll just brush the topic here. Of course, the truth about the longsword is vastly different from what is portrayed in TV shows and movies such as Game of Thrones, but it is even more exciting. We'll get to that in a moment. If you'd like to do some research on your own, most of the translated sources are available at victonow.org. Excellent site, excellent knowledge base. However, I strongly recommend that you find a teacher, an actual instructor who will guide you and help you avoid mistakes. It is as easy as logging on your Facebook account and joining the HEMA Alliance group. Just ask around there, and if there is an instructor near your location, you will find him. There are also several great YouTube channels dedicated to HEMA, such as Primary Matt Easton's Schola Gladiatoria, Dave Rawlings's London Longsword, or Anton Kochutowicz's Kochutowicz. The longsword was a weapon that relied on speed and maneuverability in order to get a point across. Quite contrary to what's portrayed in movies with atrocious sword choreography such as Game of Thrones, the longsword does not need those huge, wide overswings in order to generate a killing power. And even if you consciously choose to overwhelm your opponent with a succession of rapid hews, there is absolutely no need to struggle against the weapon like the stuntsman in Game of Thrones, because a balanced longsword just flows from a cut into a cut. You see, there's no need for a pause. However, the usual tactic recorded in the manuals of the German School of Longsword was to open with a sudden powerful strike, hop, and then, of course, if it didn't disable the enemy right away, proceed to work from the bind, seeking to thrust the sword's point into the enemy's body. And if you failed to outplay the enemy through winding and changing, you could still disengage while dealing the slicing damage. Another profound feature of the German School of Longsword is the usage of the masterful Indus tempo of striking, As the masters of old point out, there is absolutely no need for you to wait until your opponent's strike is finished before you can counterattack. You can attack and defend at the same time with the same sword, accepting the blow on the strong part of the blade while stabbing or striking with the weak part. These techniques are known as Meisterhau or Meistercuts, and they rely on striking instantly and thwarting the enemy's attack in the process. It is also worth noting that while a sword couldn't strike or pierce through plate mail or even chainmail armor, certain techniques were developed to make it useful against different kinds of opponents. So against an armored opponent you could strike, you could bludgeon with a crossguard or the pommel, or you could go into half swording to precisely thrust the sword's point into the gaps of enemy armor. Since we live in a time where the photographic documentation of our lives has reached a point where we upload pictures of our food, you will probably want to know how to wield a sword and not give out your lack of expertise right away. And here I am to provide you with this knowledge. Here, if you grab your longsword into hand, place your dominant hand right under the crossguard and your other hand on the pommel. It is an expert grip employed mostly by fencers who prefer thrusting and winding rather than powerful striking. There's another grip, such as this, where hands are placed close together. It augments the strength of your blows at the cost of flexibility. So, hands wide for an expert fencer, hands close for someone who relies on brute force. The longsword is a two-handed weapon, but there's nothing wrong with holding it in one hand. Just bear in mind that the most comfortable way of grabbing things, usually, is grabbing them as close to the center of mass as possible. So the center of mass of this longsword is around this point, so I want to grab it right under the crossguard, of course, like this. If you grab your sword in one hand like this, just as Jamie Lannister in one of the photo shoots, it doesn't look very good, it looks less than expert. But if you grab it like this, the viewer will instantly know that you have at least some experience with holding a sword. And here are some relaxed sword stances that don't scream douchebag or weeaboo right away. So if you place your sword on your arm, it's perfectly valid, it's relaxed. There is nothing awkward about it. If you drop your sword like this, it looks okay too. If you go like this, inviting your enemy, that is alright, I think. The sword across your back, of course, it looks pretty good. And if you want something more offensive, a stance like this is very usual. Just please don't do this or this, especially paired with an awkward face. Also, here's a bonus stance that I've often seen employed by instructors. So if you want to look like a relaxed, venerable expert, this is the way to go. And for God's sake, please don't do these awkward, threatening faces. A slight smile is what goes best with a sword. The basic do's and don'ts of a longsword's owner and user. Do polish your sword from time to time so that it retains the shininess. You can conserve it with mineral oil or machine oil. Natural olive oil will do as well. If you use the sword for sparring, do periodically remove the burrs and chips from the blade. Avoid touching the blade with your bare hands. Don't do it if it's not necessary. And remember to wipe the blade afterwards. That is because the sweat that is always on the skin contains acids which will cause corrosion, instant corrosion really. Don't try to chop wood with your sword or strike a fixed pell with it with full force, because in a longsword the tang will shatter from the harmonic vibrations. Don't expose your sword to flames or any source of excessive heat, because any temperature above 200 degrees Celsius will destroy the temper. Don't put heavy weights or tension on the blade, as it might cause a permanent set over time. Last but not least, how not to be an obnoxious twat while owning a longsword. It really boils down to 3 major rules. Rule number 1: don't go off showing off your sword to random people so that they notice and think you're cool, because they won't. They will think you're a loony. The presence of a sword is most respectable when it is understated and natural, not emphasized for effect. Rule number 2: don't wave your sword at random people. Don't stab people from behind to get their attention. Don't swing your sword at people just to stop the blade mere inches from their faces to show how good your control is. I can't emphasize this enough. Those are extremely rude behaviors that I often see in novice swordsmen. Rule number 3, and perhaps the most important one: armed with all this knowledge, don't go on an online crusade against sport fencers, kendo practitioners, stage fighters, LARPers, HMB people, Battle of the Nations people, pretty much everyone who does not follow the German school of longsword. I mean, Fiorists are people too. Inferior, but still people. Kidding, just kidding. Don't punta soprana me in the face. So, that will be all. Thanks for watching, and do consider subscribing to my channel before you run off to get your sword. Keep slaying!